If you could walk through a door and step back into a typical suburban home in October 1998, the first thing you would notice wouldn't be the lack of smartphones. It would be the smell. There was a specific scent to a 1998 home office, a mix of warm plastic, ozone from a glowing CRT monitor, and the slightly metallic tang of a brand new mouse pad. In 1998, the computer wasn't something you carried in your pocket or hid on a thin tablet. It was a massive, heavy, loud centerpiece of the house. It was a destination. You didn't just check a notification. You made a conscious decision to sit down, flip a mechanical power switch, and wait 2 minutes for a machine to hum and click into life. According to sales data from late 1998, personal computer ownership in the US jumped by nearly 12% in that year alone, largely because tech finally stopped being beige and started being cool. This was the year of the iMac G3, the year of Windows 98, and the year the computer room became the most important place in the home. Today we are revisiting 18 specific things that define the 1998 home office. We're talking about the software that felt like magic, the hardware that sounded like a factory, and the rituals we performed before the internet became a silent, invisible utility. And number one on our list, it was the single most exciting piece of multimedia we ever owned, and it made the entire world feel like it was sitting on our desk. If you miss the days when technology had a physical presence and a soul, welcome back to BeforeWiFi. Number 18, the Bondi Blue iMac G3. In August 1998, Steve Jobs did something that changed the industry forever. He killed the beige box. The original iMac G3 in Bondi Blue was a revelation. It was translucent. It was curvy. It had a handle on top, even though it weighed 38 pounds, because Apple wanted you to feel like you could move it. But more importantly, it was the first computer that didn't look like office equipment. It looked like a piece of candy from the future. It eliminated the floppy drive, which felt like a crime at the time, and it embraced USB when nobody knew what that was. If you had an iMac in 1998, your home office didn't feel like a cubicle. It felt like a design studio. It was the first time a computer was marketed as a lifestyle choice rather than a mathematical tool. Number 17, the Windows 98 startup sound. There was no sound more optimistic in 1998 than the startup chime of Windows 98. It was composed by Ken Cato, and it felt like an invitation to explore. It was a lush, orchestral swell that told you the World Wide Web was waiting. But Windows 98 was more than just a sound. It was the first operating system that truly integrated the browser into the desktop. It felt modern in a way that Windows 95 didn't. You had the quick launch bar you had better support for plug and play, even though it usually meant plug and pray. And you had those iconic 256 color icons. Hearing that chime today is like a direct hit of dopamine for anyone who spent their 1998 weekends trying to figure out how to change their desktop wallpaper to a picture of a nebula. Number 16, the Iomega Zip Drive. In 1998, the standard 1.44 megabyte floppy disk was dying, but we didn't have high-speed internet to move large files. The solution was the Iomega Zip Drive. These were thick, blue external drives that used 100 megabyte disks. Having a zip drive made you feel like a power user. You could actually back up your entire My Documents folder onto one disk, but they were famous for the dreaded click of death. You'd put a disk in, and instead of the usual whirring sound, you'd hear a rhythmic click, click, click. It was the sound of your data disappearing forever. Despite that, the zip drive was a staple of the 1998 office, sitting proudly next to the monitor, usually covered in a layer of dust. Number 15, Microsoft Encarta 98. Before Wikipedia, we had Encarta. It came on a CD-ROM, and for a kid in 1998, it was the coolest thing in the world. It wasn't just text, it had videos, sound clips, and interactivities. You could click on a map of the world and hear a recording of a traditional flute from the Andes. You could watch a grainy 2-inch video of the moon landing. It made the physical 24-volume encyclopedia set in the living room look like a relic from the Stone Age. We spent hours just clicking through random entries, mesmerized by the fact that we could search the sum of human knowledge without leaving our chair. Encarta 98 was the first time the computer felt like a true window to the world. Number 14, the mouse with the physical ball. If you look at the bottom of your mouse today, you see a laser. In 1998, you saw a heavy, rubber-coated steel ball. And that ball was a magnet for every piece of hair, dust, and mystery gunk on your desk. A weekly ritual in the 1998 office was cleaning the mouse. You'd twist the plastic ring, pop the ball out, and then spend 10 minutes using a toothpick or a fingernail to scrape the compressed lint off the 3 tiny plastic rollers inside. It was a gross, tactile job. But when you put it back together and the cursor moved smoothly again, it felt like you had performed major surgery. It was a reminder that tech back then was mechanical. It was physical. It needed maintenance. Number 13, the pinhole paper from dot matrix printers. By 1998, inkjet printers were becoming common, but many home offices still had an old dot matrix printer chugging away in the corner. These printers used continuous feed paper with the perforated holes on the sides. The sound was unmistakable, a high-pitched rhythmic screeching as the print head moved back and forth. But the best part was the cleanup. You'd tear the strips off the sides and then carefully pull the pages apart. If you were a kid, those perforated strips became snake toys or streamers. The 1998 office was a place of paper scraps and the smell of fresh ink ribbons. Number 12, the Beige CRT monitor, the desk crusher. Unless you were a millionaire with a primitive flat panel, your 1998 office was dominated by a 15-inch or 17-inch CRT monitor. These things were massive. They took up 2/3 of the desk and weighed as much as a small dog. They were so deep that you had to pull your desk 6 inches away from the wall just to fit the cables. But they had a soul. When you turned them on, they made a loud degauss sound, a deep thunk, followed by a high-pitched hum as the static electricity built up on the glass. You could actually feel the hair on your arms stand up if you got too close to the screen. It was a visceral, powerful piece of hardware that made modern LCDs feel like thin pieces of paper. Number 11, the subwoofer under the desk. 1998 was the year of multimedia PCs. Companies like Gateway and Dell started shipping computers with high-end speaker systems, often from brands like Alltech Lansing or Cambridge Soundworks. The centerpiece was the subwoofer. It was a black or a beige box that sat on the floor by your feet. In 1998, having a subwoofer meant you could actually feel the explosions in Quake 2 or the bass in a Winamp track. It turned the home office into a sensory experience. You'd be sitting there, doing your homework, and your toes would vibrate every time an ICQ message arrived. It was the first time the computer became an entertainment system that could rival the TV in the living room. We're just getting into the core of the 1998 experience. Coming up, we have the software that almost broke the world and the specific ritual we performed to keep our computers from freezing during a heat wave. If you miss the days when a home office felt like a cockpit in a spaceship, hit that subscribe button. We're documenting the era where tech was loud, heavy, and full of personality. Let's get back to 1998 because number 10 is something that every single one of us spent hours staring at while we waited for a download. Number 10, the Windows Defragmenter Aquarium. In 1998, hard drives were slow and they got fragmented easily. This meant you had to run the Disk Defragmenter tool, and for some reason we didn't just run it in the background, we sat there and watched it. It was a grid of tiny colored squares, red for unmovable, blue for defragmented, white for empty space. You'd watch as the little reading head moved the squares around, slowly turning a chaotic mess into a solid block of blue. It was oddly hypnotic, like watching a digital aquarium. It was a moment of forced zen in the 1998 office. You couldn't use the computer for anything else while it was defragging, so you just sat there, maybe listening to the radio, watching your computer organize its own brain. Number 9, the Screaming 56K modem. You didn't connect to the internet in 1998, you negotiated with it. The external modem, usually a US Robotics Sportster, sat on top of the tower, glowing with red LEDs. When you clicked connect, it began the handshake. It was a sequence of sounds that defined a generation. The dial tone, the rapid touch tones, and then the screeching, static-filled war between two machines trying to understand each other. It was a loud, ugly sound, but it was the sound of freedom. It meant that for the next hour, you were no longer in your house. You were part of the global network. And if someone in the kitchen picked up the phone to call their aunt, that sound would turn into a digital death rattle, and you'd be kicked back to reality. Number 8. The CD-ROM Spindle, the 50-pack. By 1998, we had stopped buying software in boxes and started burning it. Every home office had a spindle of 50 blank CDRs. They were usually silver or gold, and they sat on a plastic spike. Burning a CD was a high-stress event. You had to use software like Nero Burning ROM or Roxio. You had to set the speed to 2 times or 4 times and then pray that no one touched the computer. If the buffer underrun error appeared, you had just created a coaster, a useless piece of plastic. The 1998 office was filled with these coasters, often used to hold our coffee mugs. We spent our evenings labeling these discs with Sharpies, creating our own custom mix CDs or software backups that we'd trade with friends at school. Number 7, the ergonomic keyboard, the Microsoft Natural. In 1998, we started worrying about carpal tunnel syndrome. Microsoft released the Natural keyboard, which was a massive beige beast that was split in the middle and curved like a mountain. It took up the entire desk surface. Learning to type on it was like learning a new language. Your hands were forced into this weird angled position that felt alien at first. But if you had one, you looked like a professional. You looked like someone who spent 10 hours a day coding or writing. It was a piece of tech that was designed for the human body, even if the human body wasn't quite ready for it. Number 6, the computer desk with the sliding keyboard tray. The furniture of 1998 was built specifically for the tech of the time. Every home office had the desk. It was usually made of particle board with a wood grain veneer. It had a dedicated tower compartment, which would eventually cause the computer to overheat, a hutch for your CD-ROMs, and the legendary sliding keyboard tray. The tray was always a bit wobbly, and it was the perfect height to bang your knees on, but it was essential because the monitors were so big that you needed the keyboard to be further away just to see the screen. It was a multi-level workstation that made you feel like you were operating a piece of heavy machinery. Number 5, Winamp and the Milkdrop visualizer. If you were listening to music in 1998, you were using Winamp. It was the de facto player because it was fast and it looked cool. But the best part of the 1998 office at night was the visualizer. You'd turn off the lights, put on a 128 kilobits per second MP3 of the Verve, and hit Start Visualizer. Specifically the Milkdrop plugin. The screen would explode into psychedelic 3D patterns that reacted to the beat of the music. We would sit there for an hour, just staring at the monitor, mesmerized. It was the first time our computer felt like a trippy, artistic tool rather than a spreadsheet machine. Winamp wasn't just software, it was a culture. We are approaching the top 4. These are the things that didn't just sit in the office. They changed the way we thought about the world. We're talking about the game that ruined our sleep and the number 1 item that was the most valuable thing in the house. If you remember the feeling of your first high-speed 56K connection, stay with us. Don't forget to tell me in the comments what was the first thing you searched for on your 1998 computer? Let's finish this trip back to the Bondi Blue era. Number 4, the under-construction GIF culture. In 1998, everyone was building a personal website, usually on GeoCities or Tripod. But because we were all amateurs, 90% of those sites were under construction. Every home office had a web design folder filled with animated GIFs, the little yellow man digging, the rotating new star, and the flickering email me button. We spent more time picking out the perfect background.jpg, usually a tiled image of marble or space, than we did actually writing content. The 1998 office was a factory for these tiny digital dreams. We felt like we were building the future, one marquee tag at a time. It was a time of pure, uncurated creativity. Number 3, StarCraft and the LAN party dream. March 1998 saw the release of StarCraft. It wasn't just a game, it was a reason to buy a second computer. The 1998 office was often the site of the mini LAN. You'd have a friend bring over their tower and their 40-pound monitor, and you'd spend 3 hours trying to get the IPX/SPX protocol to work, just so you could play for 1 hour. The smell of the room would change, the heat from 2 CRT monitors and 2 power supplies would raise the temperature by 10 degrees. We lived on Jolt Cola and cheap pizza, staring at the screen until our eyes bled. StarCraft made us realize that the computer was the ultimate social tool, even if the socializing involved destroying your friend's base with a Zerg rush. Number 2, the After Dark screensaver. Because we were using CRT monitors, we were terrified of burn-in. This gave rise to the screensaver era. The king was After Dark. You'd leave your desk for 5 minutes and suddenly the flying toasters would appear, or the starry night that made you feel like you were traveling through warp space. We would spend 20 minutes just picking out the right screensaver. It was the art of the home office. It turned our expensive machines into decorative objects when we weren't using them. I can still hear the sound of the digital toast popping up. It was a whimsical, playful era where tech didn't have to be productive all the time. Number 1, the everything. CD, the software library. The number 1 thing in a 1998 home office wasn't the computer itself, it was the CD wallet. It was a zippered case, usually made of black nylon, that contained your entire digital life. Inside were the driver disks for your modem, the recovery disk for Windows 98, your collection of shareware games from PC Gamer magazine, and the 500-hour AOL free trial disks that we used as coasters. Losing that wallet was a catastrophe. It was the sum of your software, your photos, stored on Kodak photo CDs, and your music. In 1998, we didn't have the cloud. We had physical plastic. If you wanted to install a program, you had to find the disk. That wallet was the most valuable thing in the office because it represented your ability to make the machine do something. It was your library, your toolbox, and your memory, all zipped up in a black nylon case. The 1998 home office was a place of friction. Things were slow, they were loud, and they required a lot of manual labor. You had to clean the mouse, you had to defrag the drive, and you had to wait for the modem to scream its way onto the web. But that friction made us appreciate the machine. We knew how it worked because we had to maintain it. The computer wasn't a service we subscribed to. It was a piece of equipment we owned. There was a sense of pride in having a multimedia setup that worked. Today, our home offices are invisible. A thin laptop, a pair of wireless earbuds, and everything stored in a cloud we can't see. It's more efficient, but it's also colder. It doesn't have the smell of ozone or the hum of a subwoofer. It doesn't have the flying toasters to keep us company. Do you still have any 1998 tech in your house? A Bondi Blue iMac in the attic? A zip drive that still clicks? Tell me your stories in the comments. I miss that era of tech optimism, and I know many of you do too. And if you want to see what happened to the personal part of the internet during these same years, how we built those GeoCity sites before the algorithms took over, check out the video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching BeforeWiFi. Turn off the monitor and get some sleep. See you in the next one.